Here's the actual problem with finding ways to make extra money. It's not that there's a shortage of ideas, it's that there's an excess of them. You've read the articles, you've watched the videos, you know about freelancing and ghostwriting and productized services and digital products. You've got 17 browser tabs about passive income that you haven't closed in 3 weeks. The problem isn't information, it's decision. Most people never make one. They keep consuming, keep comparing, keep waiting for the option that feels completely safe and completely obvious before they commit to anything. And then they don't commit to anything. What I'm going to show you today is a 4-prompt sequence you can run with Claude that forces a decision. Not by giving you more advice. Claude's going to do the opposite. It's going to narrow things down, build a specific plan around your actual skills and your actual life, and identify exactly what's going to stop you before you stop yourself. 4 prompts, 1 direction, something you can start this week. Let's get into it. Before we run any of the prompts, I want to explain the logic behind how they're designed. The sequence is built around getting you to your first $1,000, not $10,000, not passive income, not a business, $1,000. That might sound underwhelming. It isn't. The reason most people never build any kind of income outside their job isn't that they don't have skills or that they couldn't figure out how to get clients. It's that they never get the first one. They never get the moment where someone actually pays them for something and they realize, this is real and I can do it again. That moment changes how you think. It changes what feels possible. Once you've made $1,000, you can see the path to $10,000. Once you've made $10,000, $100,000 stops looking like a fantasy. The sequence is built to get you to that first moment as fast as possible. Everything it asks you to do is in service of that. The other thing it's designed around, no audience. If you have one, great, you'll have more options. But the prompts assume you don't, which means the paths they generate will actually work for someone starting from 0. Keep that framing in mind as we go through each prompt. It'll help you understand why they're built the way they are. Give me 2 ways I could make my first $1,000 in 30 days. Both ways must require skills I already have, not require an existing audience, be sellable within 48 hours. Ask me clarifying questions until you're 95% confident in your recommendations. This is the first prompt, and there are 3 things worth understanding about how it's built. The first is the constraint on skills. Claude isn't being asked to dream up ideas. It's being asked to work from what you already have. That matters because the biggest time cost in starting anything new isn't finding clients. It's getting good at the thing. If the path requires skills you already have, you skip that cost entirely. The second is not require an audience. Without this, Claude defaults to content creation, newsletters, YouTube, all valid eventually, but all slow. You want something you can sell to someone who doesn't know you exist. The third is the clarifying questions line. This is the most important part of the prompt. Without it, Claude will make assumptions and give you generic answers. With it, Claude is forced to learn enough about you to give you something specific. When you run this prompt, answer the questions honestly. The better your answers, the better the paths you'll get. And if you don't like what comes back, push back. Tell Claude what you don't want. It adjusts. You'll get questions along these lines. What's your main skill area or professional background? How many hours can you realistically commit over 30 days? Who's already in your network? LinkedIn, email, colleagues, former clients? Which industry do you know best? What can you actually do well today without ramping up? Do you have any portfolio pieces or proof of results? These questions matter because they're targeting the exact things that determine whether a path is realistic for you specifically, or whether it's just a good idea in theory. The hours question is particularly important. If you have a full-time job and 2 hours a week realistically, Claude needs to know that. A path that requires 20 hours of cold outreach in week 1 isn't a path for you. Be honest. The network question catches people off guard. Most people think, I don't have a network. But you have former colleagues, a LinkedIn profile you haven't touched, people you've worked with who know what you're capable of. That's a network. Your first paying customer almost certainly comes from that pool, not from a cold stranger. When Claude comes back with 2 options, pick the one that feels most honest, not the most exciting. Excitement is cheap. Honest means you'll still be doing it in 2 weeks. Who is the single most successful person I should learn from to make this happen? Limit it to 1 person. This is the shortest prompt in the sequence, and also the one people most want to skip. Don't. The reason it's here is that you need a model of success, someone who has done a version of the thing you're trying to do, built in public and documented what worked. Not so you can copy them, so you can see that it's possible, understand the mechanics of how it happened, and study the decisions they made before they had anything. The limit to 1 person constraint is deliberate. If you ask for 3, you'll end up consuming 3 people's content and following none of them properly. 1 person. That's the prompt. Claude will give you someone specific to the path you chose in prompt 1, plus usually a warning. The warning is almost always a version of, don't let studying them become procrastination. Give yourself a hard cap on how much content you consume. A few hours this week, and then start. That warning is worth taking seriously. Consuming is comfortable. Sending the first DM is not. The prompt is designed to give you the minimum viable research before you have to do the uncomfortable thing. Pretend you are. Create a 20-day plan that needs less than $1,000 upfront, gets me to my first paying customer as fast as possible. Customer acquisition must start on day 1. The last line, customer acquisition must start on day 1, is what makes this prompt work differently from every other planning prompt. If you ask Claude for a business plan without that constraint, you'll get something that starts with market research, then positioning, then building your service offering, then maybe a website. And customer acquisition shows up around day 14. The problem is that almost nobody makes it to day 14. They run out of momentum, or time, or confidence, and they stop. Starting customer acquisition on day 1 doesn't mean you close someone on day 1. It means you begin the process of reaching out on day 1. You build your prospecting list. You send the first message. You start the clock on getting feedback from the market instead of just from yourself. This plan will look something like: Day 1, set up your asset, your LinkedIn profile polished, your offer written. Day 2, start building your prospecting list. Day 3, send the first 5 outreach messages. Days 4 through 10, free sample close. Offer to do 1 piece of work for free, no strings, to let people see the quality of what you do. The logic of the free sample close is important. If you don't have case studies or an existing reputation, you're asking a stranger to pay you based on nothing. A free sample changes the equation. You're not asking them to trust you. You're giving them direct evidence. Done well, it converts. The plan stays under $1,000. In practice, it's often well under that. Here's what actually needs spending. A professional platform subscription if it unlocks search filters or direct messaging. LinkedIn Premium is the common example. A simple way to take payment. Stripe is free to set up, you pay a small percentage when you get paid. That's usually it. No website, no logo, no branding exercise. No tools you don't know how to use yet. This matters because there's a specific failure mode where people spend the first 2 weeks building infrastructure instead of finding clients. They design a logo, they buy a domain, they research project management tools. All of it feels like progress. None of it is. The plan Claude generates will push back on that. The spending is deliberately minimal, and the framing is deliberately about what leads to money fastest, not what makes the operation look professional. You can make the operation look professional after you have clients. Ask me 3 yes or no questions to identify what will stop me this week. Then, cut the plan in half and keep only what directly leads to money. This is the prompt most people don't run. It's also the one that does the most work. Everything up to this point has been about building a plan that's theoretically sound. This prompt is about making it survivable for you specifically. Claude will ask 3 yes or no questions designed to surface the specific things that tend to derail people in the first week. They'll be something like, if you send 5 messages and nobody replies, will you send 5 more that same day? Can you make the first offer without discounting it before the other person even responds? Can you do 1 piece of free work this week for someone you don't already know well? Answer honestly. If you're not sure, say not sure. Claude is not judging you, it's calibrating the plan. After you answer, Claude does 2 things. The first, it reframes the things you flagged as risks, not with motivational language, with mechanics. The silence after a price isn't rejection. In direct B2B conversations, silence after a number almost always means the other person is doing maths, checking budget, thinking about ROI. The discomfort of silence is real. The panic it creates is almost always wrong. Knowing that doesn't make the silence comfortable, but it stops you from filling it with a discount you didn't need to offer. The second thing Claude does, it cuts the plan. It takes the 20 days you built and strips it to only the things that lead directly to a paying customer. Everything that felt important but isn't essential gets removed. What's usually left, prospecting, outreach, the free sample, and the close. That's the sequence. Everything else can wait. Claude may also suggest a practical anchor, something simple like sticky note with the number of outreach messages you'll send each day. This sounds trivial. It works. Volume is how you get data fast, and data is how you stop guessing about what's working. Claude will tell you something at the end of the plan that is worth sitting with. The skill isn't the technical skill. You probably already have that. The skill is doing the unsexy thing 100 times in a row. If the path involves outreach, DMs, emails, LinkedIn messages, the game is volume. Not because most of them will work. They won't. The conversion rate on cold outreach is low, and that's fine because the number you're trying to reach is one paying customer. But volume does something else. It gives you data faster. If you send 100 messages and get 15 replies, you now know what the message does and doesn't land. You know what questions people ask. You know what objection comes up most. If you send 10 messages and get 1 reply, you know almost nothing. The rejection doesn't mean the path is wrong. It means you're doing the reps. Most people stop before the reps accumulate. That's why they don't get the first customer. Not because the path was wrong, because they stopped at 12. Here's the full sequence in order. Step 1. Open Claude. Give it context about you first if you haven't already. Not a long prompt, just who you are, your background, your current situation, your constraints. Step 2. Run prompt 1. Answer the clarifying questions honestly. decide on one path from the two options. Step 3. Run prompt 2. Note the person. Put a time limit on studying them. A few hours, not a few weeks. Step 4. Run prompt 3. Tell Claude which path you chose and who your role model is. Read the plan. Check that customer acquisition starts in the first 3 days. Step 5. Run prompt 4. Answer honestly. Read what Claude gives you back. Use that as your actual week 1 plan, not the full 20 days. Then start. Day 1. Message 1. The thing Claude cannot do is make you send the message. Everything in this sequence is designed to remove every other obstacle. The unclear path, the missing role model, the overcomplicated plan, things you didn't know would stop you. Claude clears those. The message is yours to send. That's the sequence. 4 prompts. A path built from your actual skills. A model of success specific to that path. A 20-day plan with customer acquisition on day 1. And a friction audit that cuts the plan to what actually matters this week. The prompts are in the description. You can copy them directly. If you use them, or if you get your first paying customer from running this, I'd genuinely like to know. Drop it in the comments. And if you want to go deeper on how to set Claude up so that it already knows your background, your constraints, and your goals before you even start prompting, the episode on projects is the place to start. See you in the next one.